Hey everybody, welcome back to JT Channel and welcome to the second rant in as little time that I have ever done here. This one's going to be a little bit different, and I want to preface this by reminding everybody that I am a fan of all professional wrestling. I can't help it that the marks of the tribalist marks for AEW and WWE like to crash out at people. It doesn't happen a whole lot on my YouTube channel, but I still like to bring it up just in case, because I deal with it on other social media platforms all the time, where I'm just like, hey, I feel this way about a certain WWE thing, and WWE tribalists will jump on my throat and go, oh, I bet you watch AEW. I'm like, yeah, I do. Who fucking cares? Same thing with AEW. It happens all the time, but remember, I like all wrestling, so Chile. But we're here to talk a little bit about how WWE has been doing, personally, in my opinion. More specifically, we're here to talk about what happened over the last 24 hours, and I feel like it extends further than that, so this is going to be a little bit of a discussion. If you like my sit-down discussion videos, sit back and relax. This one could be up to like 30 minutes. If you don't, you might have already left by now, but stick around if you want to hear me talk a little bit about WWE and not be as nice as I usually am when it comes to most wrestling products. Now, I really think this all started back probably as far back as WrestleMania, maybe even earlier than that. And I have to say that because what I think about when I'm talking about this, because you look at the title of the video, right? And I'm asking this question after R-Truth and Carlito were both released. Because you look at WWE in 2025, and it's had its moments, right? I'll admit that I'm one of these people, I'm the problem, that looks at the big storylines like the John Cena stuff and the Jey Uso stuff, and even like Becky Lynch's return and Seth Rollins' group, just to name a few, and JC Mateo, aka Jeff Cobb. And I'm focusing on all of that, and I'm like, wow, this is great. But then you that's on the left, right? You look to the right, and you start to ask questions. And that's why you have to ask the question that I asked in this video: has WWE straight up lost the plot here in 2025? You go back to 2021, 2022, when Mr. Allegations himself got booted out of the company and for good measure, never mentioned again and basically fired and told to go fuck yourself. Triple H took over, and a lot of people, me included, thought back to all the good he did in NXT before it went kind of down in the tubes near the end of the black and gold era. And then, of course, 2.0 happened, and now Shawn Michaels is in charge, and NXT is great. And I was like, well, I wonder if we'll get some of that booking. And we did. Don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of great booking under Triple H's era. I was one of the people that was more than happy to, praise Triple H for all his booking decisions. Now, I'm not saying Triple H is the one that fired R-Truth. But, with that being said, this isn't always perfect. And I think 2025 is a great example of the 50-50 that WWE is on right now. I mentioned all those great stories, right? I mentioned all the good things, but we have to talk about the bad, and I think that, in a way, some of the bad honestly almost outweighs some of the good. Because we talk about the John Cena heel turn, and how much fun it's been, and how he's having all these last matches with Randy Orton and R-Truth, and he's going to be having that tag match at Money in the Bank. But what we aren't talking about anymore, and we shouldn't be, we should move on, day by day, days go by. You don't want to dwell on the past, is what happened at WrestleMania, which goes all the way back to the Elimination Chamber back in, February? Because way back at the Elimination Chamber, way around the Elimination Chamber, The Rock was back. And he was doing this Cody Rhodes sell your soul to me storyline. Of course, Cody didn't. He never was going to. And it was a great moment, a great segment, and then John Cena turned heel, and you had him and The Rock and Travis Scott all standing over Cody Rhodes and blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to WrestleMania. Between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, there is absolute zero when it comes to The Rock actually showing up and being a part of this story. And then at WrestleMania, Fiend starts playing one of the most annoying songs I've ever heard in my life. It's not a bad track, but I got sick of it quick. I think we all did. And we all assume what happened at the Elimination Chamber is about to happen. Out comes Travis Scott, then out comes The Rock. No, Travis Scott thinks he's The Undertaker, takes 412 years to get to the ring, takes a crossroads, and, that's just that. And we still haven't heard from The Rock on television. In an interview somewhere, I don't remember where, and my brain is not braining, so I'm not going to try to figure it out off the top of my head. But somewhere The Rock, as Dwayne Johnson, did an interview where he was like, I just wanted to let Cody and John shine. If that's the case, then why did we do this in the first place? I get The Rock as a draw, and now he's a boss in TKO, so he can do whatever he wants. But imagine we go back to Elimination Chamber, and we just did the Elimination Chamber, right? Maybe John Cena starts cutting promos with like a twinge of heel in him. Because remember, he was kind of a dickhead at the Royal Rumble post-press conference where he was like, I'm going in the Elimination Chamber. I don't need to qualify. So he kind of leaned on that a little bit as we built to the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber match goes exactly the same. Do not change a thing about the match itself. He wins. Out comes Cody Rhodes. We do the whole thing. They shake hands, they high five, they hug, and then John Cena makes that face, low blows Cody Rhodes, beats the hell out of him, maybe hits him with a couple AAs, and then we move on, we move forward. No Rock, no question, no freaking Travis Scott, no Fiend. We just moved on. Right there is a good example of when WWE completely lost the plot. Because they put so much stock into Dwayne Johnson, and then Dwayne Johnson decided he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. They got to start putting stock in what they are doing. And it's partially his fault. It's partially Dwayne Johnson's fault because I'm sure this was all his idea. He's like, oh, we'll do this really cool story about selling someone's soul, and it'll be John Cena, and everyone will love it, and then I'll back out, and it'll be great. Then you fast forward to WrestleMania, and you had the whole Travis Scott interference, which I get. Travis... People still haven't looked up what really happened when Travis Scott hit Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber. That was all planned. Like, they were wondering why Travis Scott was even going to be there, and Cody, John, Dwayne, Travis, it's not like I know them, they all came to the conclusion that Travis Scott should be involved, and Cody told him to lay it in. So if you don't know, now you know. He told Travis Scott, if you're going to hit me, you better fucking hit me. But we get to WrestleMania and all that happened. And I know it sounds like I'm getting off topic, but I'm really not. Because the point here is that through this WrestleMania match and everything, it really seemed like WWE did all this stuff with The Rock for next to no reason. And we're still talking about it. People are still talking about it. And that's not a good thing. You fast forward to now, to what just happened with R-Truth and Carlito, and you start to make a hell of a lot more questions than answers. Because now, after the release, especially after the release of R-Truth, there's no offense, no disrespect towards Carlito. I love Carlito. I think he's been a great asset to WWE in the Judgment Day. He's one of my favorite memories from the mid-2000s, from the Ruthless Aggression era. But after their release, you start to wonder what the hell WWE is doing. Because you go back to even the 15 or 17, however many releases it was earlier in the year, and I think all the NXT releases have reached their 30 days, so they can go do whatever now. But it's like, what are we doing? What is WWE doing? They are putting all their stock into their biggest stories, and that's nothing new. That's nothing new. But it does start to kind of remind me, anyway, of the bad parts of the Attitude Era. I've said this a million times. The Attitude Era was more bad than it was good. And that right there is probably going to get me shot. But the specific bad things were that WWE would focus on these huge storylines with The Rock, Steve Austin, Mankind, Triple H. Pretty much just those four. And they would forget about everything else. Everything else would go by the wayside. They didn't give a shit. And they were like, as long as these men are involved, we're going to put all of our stock into that. And because of that, things would fall by the wayside. I may have forgotten where I left off when I just walked off, but I do know that I'm talking about the forgetfulness. And for a while, WWE seemed to be trying, with I don't want to say the women's tag team titles, but there was a hint that they were trying with the women's tag team titles. Really, the women all together are kind of part of the problem here. But, like Chelsea Green and Lyra Valkyria, they were doing what they could with them. You could tell that there was some issues. And then you look at the men's titles, like the men's U.S. title and the men's Intercontinental Championship, and it's just, you have to start asking questions, like, why are we not caring about this stuff, too? And then non-title storylines. Like, those are important. You cannot put all of your feuds on titles. There has to be blood feuds, like Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. They had a fantastic, like, 14-month-long feud that came to a head this year in all these matches they've had. But what happened with, Damian's U.S. title stuff? Sorry, I'm zoned out really bad. I told you, my brain's not braining. Just recently, he has mentioned Jacob Fatu. So as long as we keep that going, we're good. There's at least a plan there. But there really wasn't much of a plan with the U.S. title until WrestleMania, when we put it on Jacob Fatu. That was always going to happen. It really felt like we were just wasting time and building time. And you don't want to feel like that in WWE. You don't want to feel like that in wrestling at all. For those that are going to crash out at me with something about AEW that I don't care about because I'm not talking about AEW, it's not that WWE is the only company that does this, but they have the most eyes on them, and that's just that. End of conversation. More people watch WWE than any other wrestling promotion out there. They're the biggest, they're the most talked about, watched, whatever. So everyone's going to notice this stuff. Another really good example from WrestleMania is the tag team title scene. Well, the tag team title scene in general. It's getting better, I think, but you go back to WrestleMania and everyone has said the same thing. That the New Day versus the War Raiders could have been done on Monday Night Raw, and we could have put the TLC match on WrestleMania, because putting it on SmackDown meant there were commercial breaks and people missed stuff and it had to be shorter. It could have been a much longer, much more fun and interesting match on the WrestleMania card. And I get that we were giving the New Day the tag titles, but doing that on the Raw after WrestleMania would have been brilliant, would have been awesome. So it really feels like WWE has their priorities kind of mixed. And I mentioned the women earlier. I realized that came out wrong. The women aren't the problem. It's how they're being booked. So if you yelled at me about that before you got this far, shame on you. I always come back. I always know what I'm talking about. But they just announced Evolution 2, which is huge. Or so it would seem that it's huge. Because now there's reports coming out. Maybe they're just rumors. But some people backstage are starting to think that Evolution 2 is just a little dangle. They're just dangling the bait in front of the fish on the hook, being like, hey, we care about the women's division. Here's Evolution 2, which is exactly what Evolution 1 was. Like, the first Evolution took place, I think, in 2018. So Mr. Allegations was still in charge, and he only did Evolution to say, look, I care about women's wrestling. Here's a whole pay-per-view just for the women. And then we never talked about it again. It was in a really small venue for a pay-per-view back even in 2018. Like, they did not try very hard at all. The show was awesome. Like, Evolution as a show, if you forget all the other shit I'm talking about, it was really good. So clearly I'm going to be excited about Evolution 2. But it once again feels like WWE knows that we're paying attention, that we're like, hey, how come the U.S. and Intercontinental Championships on the women's side aren't really being talked about anymore? Lyra and Becky have a great feud going on. But before Becky came back, what was Lyra doing? Random title defenses every other Monday on Raw. They were great, and Lyra Valkyria improves all the time. So all she knows how to do is improve. She's one of the best women on the entire Raw roster. And so her and Becky are going to have a great match at Money in the Bank. But what are we doing? What were we doing before that? Nothing. We just brought Becky in, turned her heel, which never ever works, and then moved on with our lives. And now we have their rematch coming, which again will be really good. But because they're putting some focus on that title, they're putting no focus on the U.S. title. Like they give it to Zelina Vega, fine, totally fine. I don't mind that at all. But the story hadn't really peaked yet for the title change to mean anything, and now they're just petering people out there to face Zelina Vega from the Secret Harvest. It's not even like other challengers. It's just Chelsea Green, Zelina Vega, Piper Niven, and Alba Fire. And again, nothing wrong with those matches, nothing wrong with that story, but they aren't really doing anything, I don't think. Coffee. This is how you make your brain. And then I don't even know what to say about the women's tag team titles. That's the biggest what the fuck are we thinking. Once again, they were only invented to make people think that Vince McMahon, I meant to call him Mr. Allegations again, make us think that he actually cared about the women, and he never has. I thought Triple H did, and you can tell he cares more than Mr. Allegations, but it's definitely a plot problem. There's not enough going on for the women. And it's not that WWE can't do it. They absolutely can. But instead, they just don't. And it doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't. And I'm not saying that Triple H can make everybody happy. I thought about this when I was kind of thinking about, okay, how am I going to go about this video and everything? You can't make everybody happy because everybody wants something different. For example, if Triple H and Nick Khan called me right now in the middle of this video and said, hey, you get to pick the main events for SummerSlam. Go. Without question, night one would be Becky Lynch versus Bayley for the Intercontinental Championship. I would have Becky beat Lyra at Money in the Bank. Bayley come back. Have those two main event night one. And night two would be CM Punk versus John Cena for the world title, the WWE title. And Punk would win. And Cena would start turning face. Now, that's not what's going to happen because they're building towards Cena versus Cody, and Cody will probably take it. And that's probably the right move. But when Cena won the title at WrestleMania, I immediately said, well, I hope Punk takes it off him. Because I think that'd be a great way to take the title off of Cena and go about the rest of his farewell tour. You know how many people are going to be mad at me that I even said the name CM Punk? Like, we are not supposed to book wrestling. The bookers are supposed to book wrestling. So, while this is how I feel about WWE losing the plot, I do feel like this is a genuine conversation, which does lead me back to the present, what's happening right now. Releasing or letting R-Truth and Carlito's contracts run out has apparently scared the WWE locker room to their, bones. Because now, if R-Truth is not safe, then who is? I mean, I was watching... I'm sorry, my collarbone keeps sticking out and it feels weird. Fixing my shirt. What was I going to say? Oh, I was watching the What Culture Wrestling News this morning, and they made a good point. Someone like Cody Rhodes, probably fine. Jey Uso, probably fine. Randy Orton, probably fine. John Cena, obviously not the record like John Cena. So, there's a group that is likely okay. But after you leave that group, the first person on the list was probably R-Truth as one of the safest people, and they're letting him go. And God knows why. When we had the releases back in, what was it, April maybe? I think it had April or May. When those releases went down, it was very much a, age, experience, and salary thing. Like, if you were over a certain age, they were trying to let you go. If you were making a certain amount, they were trying to let you go because WWE's apparently going broke. That was sarcasm. WWE makes more money than God. And then apparently some people weren't training properly or something when it came to the NXT releases, which I find to be complete bullshit. There's no way Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Oro Mensah, Riley Osborne, some of these names I clearly memorized. There's no way they weren't training enough. Especially someone like Cora or Gigi. Gigi Dolan was freaking Priscilla Kelly on the Indies, and she was wrestling all the time. Do not tell me that she wasn't training enough. But you go back to those releases, and now you fast forward to now R-Truth is gone, and Carlito's gone again, and it just feels like WWE is not the safe bet anymore. And that's kind of why All Elite Wrestling exists. Actually, I said this isn't about AEW, and it's not. This is about WWE kind of losing interest in everything else. But back in the day when they would have these releases, like Black Friday, if you all remember that, and all the other times that people have been let go, they had nowhere else to go. I mean, there was TNA, of course, but between TNA and the Indies, that wasn't a whole lot of options. But now, TNA is bigger than it's ever been, in my opinion. And there's a secondary televised wrestling company. I mean, TNA is televised too. You know what I mean. AEW positioned itself as direct competition to WWE, at least when it first arrived back in 2019. So, it's like, what now? You know, where do these people go? At least they have options. And that's where this R-Truth and Carlito thing gets so interesting, so frustrating, I guess, is that these guys can go do whatever they want because it's contract expiration. It's not release. When you're released out of your contract before the contract comes due, you're given the 90 days or the 30 if you're in NXT. If you let your contract expire, the day after that, you're free to go. You're free to do whatever. So, Ron the Truth Killings could show up back in TNA if he wanted to. Or maybe he just wants to go home and chill. I think he's making music. If you haven't heard R-Truth's last album, that's on you. He's actually a very talented rapper, in my opinion. I don't even like rap like that. Carlito, I think, won a Puerto Rican title, the WWC something. So he'll probably go wrestle in Puerto Rico some more. Good for him. But this is where I'm really going to get bogged down in the whole Lost the Plot thing. Because, again, I have to ask the question, what is even going on? Like, we have our big stories, and that's great. But here's another really good example, right? The New Day. The New Day had one of the best heel turns of all time. A lot of people, including myself, compared it to Hogan showing up as the third member of the NWO. Hogan said a bunch of dumbass shit, because of course he did. But them turning on Big E like that was insane. And then they did nothing with it for months. And then when they started to do something with it, they just had them cheat and lose and not be champions and lose title matches and get disqualified. They finally let them win the titles at WrestleMania, and honestly, one of the more lackluster matches in the War Raiders' career. Like, the War Raiders are way too good to be put on a match that could be considered near the bottom if you were to rank both nights of WrestleMania. Like, it wasn't as good as it could have been, and that's why I said what I said. They could have put that on the Raw after WrestleMania, given it a bigger spot, and then had the Raw after WrestleMania reaction. Whereas at WrestleMania, people were just like, yeah, okay. But, with that being said, the Raw Tag Team division has 3 teams. The titles never change hands. And it doesn't seem like they know what to do with the Raw Tag Team division. The SmackDown Tag Team division is a little more fleshed out, and now they put the Wyatt 6 in it. But I said there's only 3 on Raw. There's only 4 in the central part of SmackDown. You got the Street Profits. You got the Machine Guns. You have, DIY, Ciampa and Gargano. And, oh my God, Fraxium. Now, don't get me wrong. Those are 4 of the best tag teams in the world. Fraxium is probably the best tag team in the world. Oh, did I say that out loud? But when it's just those 4 teams, you don't really get too excited because you know it's going to be one of these 4. And then now you have the Wyatt 6. So altogether, that's 5, potentially 6 on SmackDown, because you could do multiple different teams with the Wyatt 6. And then 3 on Raw. So that's not 8 to 9 tag teams. And then there's also teams that aren't being used, like Pretty Deadly. A-Town Down Under is probably about to split, which I can't wait for. But you have all these teams. Shuffle them around a little bit. Let them travel from brand to brand. Have a little fun with it. Fraxium's down on SmackDown. Why not? And I know there's also like Angel and Berto and the LWO. There's lots of tag teams. I'm not saying there's not. But when you look at the tag team title scene, you can focus in and you know all the teams. It's not hard. There's no new teams. There's no like good stories. Again, there is now on SmackDown. Why are the Wyatt 6 attacking the tag team division? I can't wait to find out. But there wasn't for a while. So, when it comes down to it, WWE has a great main event scene going on right now, okay? I know people don't like Jey Uso, but fucking yeet. Get off my channel. I love Jey Uso. And he's got a good thing. His feuds are always good. I don't know who he's going to lose the title to, but I wouldn't be surprised if he loses it at SummerSlam to, like, Seth Rollins. But that's the thing. On Raw, there's so many people gunning for Jey Uso. That's great. What about the other champions. You know, Dominic Mysterio is the Intercontinental Champion. People love Dominic Mysterio. Do more with him. Don't just have random title matches on Monday Night Raw. Put him in a proper story with somebody. Like him and Penta could fight for that title for the rest of the year and it wouldn't bother me at all. They're so good together. But make it a story. You know, have him be in a story. You know, I know it's the Judgment Day, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. The fact that WWE has gone back to relying on as many distraction finishes as they can get their hands on is fucking irritating. But give him a proper story. Lyra Valkyria has a story with Becky Lynch, but where's it going to be after Money in the Bank? If Becky doesn't win the title there, like we all think she probably should, then Becky has to go do something else and Lyra needs a new feud. It's that simple. And then, of course, I've already talked about the tag titles. I don't think I need to talk about those anymore. And then there's the women's tag team titles. Sometimes I wonder if Liv and Raquel are just carrying those around for fun. I don't even know if there are women's tag team champions anymore at this point. You fast forward to SmackDown, it's got the same problem. The WWE title scene. Great. Cody Rhodes is back. And there's all these other wrestlers that clearly want to get after the John Cena and the WWE title. But then you drop down to Jacob Fatu. What has he been really doing since WrestleMania other than just killing fools and dealing with JC Mateo? That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But he needs a story. That's why I'm hoping this Damian Priest thing goes well, because him versus Damian Priest one-on-one at like SummerSlam would be absolutely fantastic. That's a match that deserves a good 20-minute spot on the first two nights SummerSlam, in my opinion. And then, once again, the women's U.S. title. We gave it to Zelina Vega, and then just dropped it, moved on. Nobody actually cares. We should care. Zelina should finish out her story with Chelsea at like Money in the Bank or SmackDown or whatever. But then put her in a proper feud with like Julia. Julia signed to SmackDown. If I was booking, that's exactly what I would do. I would have Zelina finish up with Chelsea Green and the Secret Service, and then move into a proper feud, have Julia maybe beat Chelsea, win a few big matches, and then challenge Zelina, win another match or two, and then I'd give the title to Julia at SummerSlam. Again, I love Zelina Vega, but just give these people stories. And the SmackDown tag team titles, the division is great, and the stories were doing pretty good. It did kind of feel like they were about to fall into oblivion until the Wyatt Six came back. And now I feel like we're going the right direction there. But then everybody else, what happens? A really good example is the big returns. Rusev and Aleister Black, right? When they brought back Rusev, I didn't mind that he feuded with the Alpha Academy. But I also hate it when a big return shows up and just beats up some tag teams. His match with Otis was fun. His match with Tozawa was hilarious. But thankfully, they did exactly what I wanted them to do. I've been yelling at my TV, put him in a feud with Sheamus. Sheamus came out last week on Raw. 2 thumbs way up. So that will be good. So thank God they did something there. Aleister Black has just kind of been dealing with Carmelo Hayes and The Miz. They're fine. I love The Miz, obviously. I love Carmelo Hayes. But, again, they could do a little bit more. They could put him in a proper feud with somebody. I don't know why my brain just thought of this, but imagine they put him in a feud with Shinsuke Nakamura. Imagine Aleister Black versus Shinsuke Nakamura on any day of the week that ends in Y, twice on Sunday. That match would be 5 stars, and all they had to do was taunt. Aleister Black could do that backflip, sit, and Nakamura could do that thing where he grabs her up and throws his body way further back than any human being should. It makes my back hurt. I just feel like WWE is on the verge of either taking off in the right direction or losing the plot. And I really feel like R-Truth and Carlito's releases are potentially the catalyst for all that. Because people are upset. People are really upset. I've heard that people in... the rumor is that some backstage talents are angry. Some backstage talents are confused and conflicted. Like, why would we let R-Truth go? What is wrong with you? You didn't have to let him wrestle. I know he's, 48? So if you don't want him to wrestle because of age, which is dumb, Sting's retirement. But if you don't want him to wrestle, re-sign him and let him do some ambassador stuff, or let him just train people or whatever. Letting him go is just dumb. Okay? I think I've ranted long enough. Here we go. Ready? 30 minutes. All right. So thank you, everybody, so much for watching. If you decide to check this video out and listen to me bitch, moan, whine, and complain about pro wrestling again, I definitely appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an angry wrestling fan or whatever. I love pro wrestling. I'm super into all the storylines right now. I watch Raw, NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown, TNA, New Japan, Major League Pro. Oh, no, not Major. Maple Leaf. Sorry. Maple Leaf Pro. Did I mention SmackDown? SmackDown. What else? Collision. I watch all this stuff. Not all the time, but I always enjoy every bit of it. I know Collision, AEW Collision, is like the extra show to some people, but it can still be really fun. Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay got into a fight on Saturday. That was crazy. I'm getting off topic. Hell, let me shout out Pro Wrestling Symphony, a little local promotion that had their first show last night. I love pro wrestling so much. I do. But if we don't criticize these things when they need to be criticized, then what are we doing? I'm not saying go on the internet and call Jey Uso a bunch of names because you don't like him, or say that you hope AEW burns to the ground. That's too much. But being critical, I'm too much of a wrestling fan. And as I'll always say, I might have the smallest voice in the entire wrestling world, but it's still a voice and I'm going to use it. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that WWE releasing Carlito and R-Truth was just like a... Oh, thanks for that. My daughter just handed me... This is cat hair. This is cat hair. I hope it's not the catalyst for WWE to start tanking like it did back in the day. As long as it's not 2019, I think I'll be fine. But we'll see. But again, thank you for watching. I'll try not to do too many rants. It's just the other day when people were mad at pro wrestlers for pro wrestling and forgetting that pro wrestling is inherently dangerous. And now this is more towards WWE in general. I hope I'm wrong. Raw tonight's going to be good. And this upcoming weekend is... 2 pay-per-views on one day. The AAA, WWE, NXT, TNA, Worlds Collide show. And, of course, Money in the Bank. I don't see myself doing a picks and predictions for the AAA Worlds Collide show, because this is just a showcase. It's a lot like when AEW books Forbidden Door. A lot of times, most of the matches are just showcases. Like, hey, we got this wrestler from New Japan. Let's put him against this wrestler from AEW. It makes people mad as if we're supposed to fucking care. But it is mostly just a showcase to get eyes on AEW or on AAA that have never watched it before, and to get the AAA guys used to the WWE guys and vice versa. Apparently, well, there is going to be an NXT match, and there's rumors that like the Nemeths, Moose, and Joe Hendry are all potentially going to be there. So there's probably some TNA involvement. So I don't see myself doing picks and predictions for that. My picks and predictions for Money in the Bank may not be until like Saturday morning, because I think SmackDown still has one more person to put in Money in the Bank, so I may have to wait until very, very last minute to do my picks and predictions for that. So my wife just informed me a second ago I did my outro already, but then I remembered that part of my outro is telling you guys what to look forward to, so I did that backwards. My bad. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave comments, yell at me. I don't care. This is just an opinion. But until next time, this is JT Channel. I am JT. And like I said, I'll try not to rant too much more. But I will see you in the next one.